Going up for him. Okay, let's go to the final question of this evening. So the question is regarding a property in Michigan, but the property holder is in North Royalton, Ohio. So from Nathan in North Royalton, Ohio, he says, I have a judgment against a former business partner in a real estate deal gone bad in Ohio. Okay, so I want to take the judgment, which is significant, by the way, and file it against his property, which is up there. So Ohio is south of us,
Right.
up there in Royal Oak, Michigan. After that, can I foreclose on the judgment? Okay, so there's a real estate deal gone bad in Ohio. He has a judgment. However, he wants to file it against a different property up in Royal Oak, Michigan. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, and I find it interesting. We got North Royalton, Ohio, and then we have Royal Oak.
Yeah, good connection. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, it's a great question. It does have a lot of real estate, real estate investment involved for those people who are watching. The first thing is, the viewing audience should know that I not only represent people in Michigan, but we have a firm in Ohio as well. So we handle both Ohio and Michigan, okay? We're licensed in both states. So that's probably why I got the call. Now, here's the thing. There's a couple layers here, as always. It's never easy, Blair. But the first thing is, in Michigan, or in any state, basically, just because you have a judgment against somebody that you were able to secure in another state, you just can't come into, Michigan or any other, state and try and execute on that judgment. You have to actually perfect that judgment. You have to go and take that judgment to a court in Michigan and have them pretty much validate that judgment, okay? You cannot just go around with the Ohio judgment and in Michigan do anything with it until you basically, for the viewers, is you have to get the blessing of a Michigan court to validate that judgment in Michigan. That's number one, okay? Perfecting the judgment. Once you do that, so it's a legal process, not that long, should not take that long. Well, in today's environment, yes. In the COVID environment, yes. 90 to 120 days.
Due to COVID.
Right, we have to do that disclaimer.
Yeah, that's the phrase we just tack onto the end of everything.
Yeah,
due
we
to
should have
COVID.
a particular. Okay, so that's number one. That's the first thing you have to do. You have to perfect the judgment. I do a lot of these, and as recently as I just got a client out of Alaska who has property here in Michigan, and we're doing something very similar. So that's number one. Number two, when in Michigan, if you have a judgment, whether it came out of Ohio, Alaska, or it was local and you went to court and got a judgment against somebody, you can't just file the judgment lien on a property. You can't lien the property with a judgment and just go and record it. You actually have to notice. You have to give and serve notice to the property owners and the judgment debtor, they call them. You have to actually serve notice before you can go and file the lien. All right?
Yep.
That's number two. I'll give you one more thing.
Okay.
Now that you've secured the judgment, you file this against the property, you'll never be able to foreclose on the judgment. Not in Michigan. You cannot foreclose out the judgment. You can only let that judgment remain on the property. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I'm going to back that up a little bit. There are certain exceptions. Okay? But for the most part, and without getting into too much detail, your judgment will not allow you to foreclose out and take the property back. Okay? That's it.
So what?
You're gonna ask me what the exceptions are.
Well, no, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit trail there. But what? So if Nathan cannot foreclose, but the judgment just would rest on the property, then what does Nathan then receive?
Well, Nathan doesn't receive anything until, let's say, that person has to sell the property or refinance the property.
Okay.
Yeah. it's going to sit there. It will earn interest based on what we
Mhm.
call the judgment interest.
Okay.
There's an interest rate that the court will allow, and it's
Mhm.
published every month.
I
What
gotcha.
the interest rate is, and so it still earns interest, but it just sits against the house. You can't
I
do much
see.
with it.
So he can't foreclose on it, but it's like a due on sale
Right.
once it is sold
And
or
I say,
refinanced.
generally speaking, you cannot
Mhm.
foreclose on these liens.
Okay.
Okay, but
Generally
you're
speaking.
solid against it, right?
Okay. Okay.
And
So
it
that
just
was
sits.
just what I was wondering is, well, then what does he receive and when and how at the time of sale or refinance?
Right,
Okay.
I know we're wrapping up. This is the thing that people fail to remember, that even though you have a lawsuit and you may go through, you may settle and have a pocket judgment, as we call it, so you didn't have to go to court, and the parties agreed to still give a judgment, a consent judgment, as we call it, or you go through, unfortunately, long litigation and you win a trial or at a hearing and you get a judgment. Just because you get a judgment doesn't mean you now have to go and enforce it. And
Mhm.
there are attorneys, I have an attorney in my office who does this for us, but there are attorneys that all they do all day long is enforce judgments, enforce collections. They're called collection attorneys, and they have
Mhm.
it's a real specialty. And we have somebody who deals with that when it comes to intensive judgments and trying to, these are large judgments. These aren't, $10,000. These are like
Right.
usually, they started around 100,000 and up.
Mhm.
So you're not guaranteed to get your money when you go to court. It's
Right.
just unfortunate. So you have to
It is.
pursue the judgment debtor, is what we call them.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
Nathan, that that just about wraps it up for Nathan in Ohio. North Royalton,
North Royalton's a nice
referencing
area.
Royal Oak.
North Royalton is very much like the east side, like Ohio, Cleveland area. That's
Hmm.
Northeast Ohio. North Royalton. Cleveland has an east and west side,
Hmm.
just like Metro Detroit.
Isn't that something
And I think North Royalton is on the east side.
on the east side?
East
All
of
right.
Cleveland, east side of Cleveland. Anyways,
All right.
that was great.
Yeah,
Good
that was
question.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. For those of you who are just catching the tail end of this, if you would like to reach out to David Sobel for any of your real estate law needs or anything that has to do with estate planning, and then also finance, contracts and such, David, if you want to just elaborate on everything that isn't
Well,
necessarily specifically real estate, but anything that real
right.
estate would
Really,
touch.
it's really financial disputes, and they're
Financial
related to,
disputes. Okay.
right. It's going to be related to loans,
Okay.
and they're business loans, consumer loans, commercial loans, disputes with banks, disputes with
Yep.
lenders. Again, it could be mortgages, it could be guarantees. It has everything to do with real estate. And I've been doing
Hmm.
this for, like I said, 30 years. And
Right.
this is a very integral part of dealing with real estate issues. So,
Right, right. So if you've got any of those issues, you can reach out to David at provenresource.com. Give his office a call, 888-789-1715. Or like I plugged earlier, if you're on Facebook and you are a real estate investor or you'd like to be one, and you want to network with other like-minded people, you can find both myself and David on Michigan Real Estate Investor Network. You can also check us out on our website, michiganreinetwork.com. We have some great podcasts on there, which David has been a part of several. And if you'd like to see more videos like this featuring David and all of his glorious legal wisdom, you can go over
you're
to
too
his
kind.
YouTube. Go to his YouTube
All
channel
right.
if you're not already there. And in the search bar, just type in Proven Resource or Sobel Law, and his
Yeah.
extensive content catalog
Yeah.
will pop up there. So,
Thank
well,
you.
all right, David. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Blair, as
Hope you
usual.
have
It's
a
been
great
fun.
evening, and thank
Yeah.
you, everyone, for
Okay.
tuning in. Appreciate you guys.
Right.
Everyone, have a good
You
night.
too. Good night.